Well, today is a gathering of all sorts of people who are interested in and committed to electoral reform. It's great to see representatives of a number of political parties and also grassroots organisations, people who are members of parties, people who are not. And I think that actually represents the kind of new politics that we're looking for, where people come together, they put their narrow party political interests to one side and actually reach out and talk to each other about an issue which is fundamentally in the national interest. I think first past the post creates a political culture which is based on confrontation, and it tends towards narrow party political interests rather than building coalitions which tend to match with both the longer term national interest and also with a more logical approach to solving a problem. There's a tendency, I think, with first past the post to produce a kind of yaboo political culture where it becomes more important to score points in Prime Minister's questions or whatever against your opponent, rather than actually doing what I think the people of this country have elected us to do, which is to come to Westminster and solve problems, work together and solve problems. I think if you look, for example, at the future of the National Health Service, there's clearly questions over the long-term financing of the NHS given the demographic shifts in our country. Look at our long-term infrastructure needs. Look at the future of our relationship with the European Union or our presence in the world. These are issues which I think need cross-party consensus building to put in place plans and commitments which go beyond the vagaries of the electoral cycle, which are actually 10, 15, 20-year time and planning horizons. So that's why I think first past the post is bad for our politics, because that adversarial culture tends towards a more short-termism, whereas we actually need long-term problem solving. I think there is a growing body of support for electoral reform within the Labour Party. I think we're at a much lower base in the Conservative Party, and then the smaller parties are in favour. So, that's the arithmetic of it. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a difficult situation in terms of parliamentary arithmetic. What it tells me is the fact that Johnny put that bill forward is a very encouraging sign, I think, for the campaign, because it shows that I think the next step is to really focus on bringing the Labour Party on board. The campaign needs a large party. It needs a party that's traditionally been part of the duopoly in British politics. And I hope that people such as Johnny Reynolds and Chuka Umunna and myself can play a role in helping the Labour Party to see the light and ultimately to end up with a manifesto pledge for voting reform. I think it would be great if we were to do that. I haven't heard any of the details of it. I've heard the sort of rumours in the corridors. It's desperately needed, and I think it would be very interesting to see who comes out in support of PR as a part of that exercise. And if it's properly promoted, I think we could get some good numbers. But again, I would say I think the strategic priority should be to focus now on getting the Labour Party inside this tent, because the movement needs one of the larger political parties, and I think once you get to that stage, you could then begin to really reach a tipping point where huge numbers of people across the country start to come on board. So I'd welcome the All-Party Parliamentary Group. We've got to then get a clear plan for how that APPG works with the campaign to achieve the objectives we're after. I would say lobby your local MP. Ultimately, this is a decision that has to be made politically. I think that if there was a joint manifesto pledge of all of those parties that are committed to a more proportional system, and those parties secure a parliamentary majority in the 2020 election, in my view, that is a mandate for electoral reform. And the case should then be to put the legislation in place to make that happen. So if enough MPs of all parties can come together and create a parliamentary majority, who knows, we might even be able to pick up some of the Conservatives in doing that in a journey towards 2020. That is the way I think we could actually enact legislation we can then have a debate with the country about what sort of system it should be. But if there are enough manifesto pledges and those MPs get elected on the basis of that manifesto, then I think that's what you need to move forward to PR.